Ask Reddit what happened at a wedding that let you know the marriage was going to end in a divorce.
My cousin Jan's wedding was basically just a preamble to an elaborate dance of divorce that we all knew was coming from the moment the engagement began. For context, this took place 15 years ago in the backwoods of NC. My family is just a generation or two removed from snake handling in church, so some of the wackiness is the product of upwardly mobile inbreeding and redneck gumption. Just a few things that come to mind. Her fiancé proposed to her over the corpse of her father. He was over with the family watching TV when Jan's dad collapsed on the floor. He died before emergency services arrived. Her boyfriend grabbed her hands as she was sitting next to her father's body, pulled her up to her feet, and then asked her to marry him. He later said that he didn't want her to get away. The fiancé then disappeared for a month the week after the funeral. Nobody knew where to reach him. The bride's white trash mother told Jan that she had to get married within 4 months because she, the mother, my aunt, planned to move to another state with her new boyfriend to avoid bill collectors. When Jan's fiancé showed back up, he was cagey and weird. Eventually, it came out that he'd been living with his ex-girlfriend because she insisted that he had to give her a month of his life, or she'd take him to court for child support that he was supposed to be paying on their infant son, but had never paid. Throughout all of this, Jan continued to insist that she wanted to marry him. My mother and I did most of the wedding prep and arrangements. Jan's mom, despite insisting on the 4-month timeline to help pay for the wedding before her move, never contributed a dime, and we were both pretty convinced that the wedding was going to be cancelled at any moment. But the day arrived, and so did the principal players. At the wedding itself, the groom walked around drinking PBR out of a massive travel thermos with a novelty straw, and told everyone who would listen that Jan was a good starter wife. Jan threw several tantrums about stupid shit, including one in which she accused the groom of stealing her drink. He told her she was a dumb whore, but it all worked out because then she found her drink. The groom pulled the ring off of Jan's finger during the reception and swallowed it as a joke. The groom picked a fight with his father because his dad had asked the ex-girlfriend to stay at home, and the groom had really wanted her to be there. Jan was in the dark about this invitation until the fight broke out. Epilogue: shocking precisely nobody, except possibly Jan herself, they eventually did divorce. Eating the ring caused the groom some discomfort, so they had to cancel their honeymoon to the mountains so that he could go to the ER and get hospital-grade laxatives. They lost money on the cancellation and the ER visit, which they really didn't have to lose. That resulted in some immediate debt problems, and they lost the trailer they'd planned to rent when they couldn't come up with the deposit. That resulted in both of them moving into the groom's parents' home, into his old bedroom. Things went downhill from there. The groom's ex-girlfriend popped back up less than 3 months after the wedding, heavily pregnant with his second child. She went after him for another shared month, but Jan wasn't cool with it. The ex ended up taking him to court for child support. Jan got a second job to make ends meet while resigning herself to living with her in-laws for a while longer. One day, after he'd dropped her off at work, the groom sold Jan's car. He then disappeared for several more weeks. She lost both jobs, and shortly thereafter realized she was pregnant. The groom accused her of cheating because he thought he couldn't have more than 2 children in a lifetime, and his ex-girlfriend had already filled the quota. As I understand it, this is what ultimately caused the rift in their relationship.
My brother was with a girl from 7th grade until he was 22. A girl from the neighborhood. Awesome person. Very pretty. We loved her. Our families got along great. She got accidentally pregnant at 19. They had a son. But my bro, as good a person as he is, had issues with jealousy and with being controlling. The girl finally got fed up and dumped my brother. She packed up to Vegas, we're from SoCal, to go to grad school at UNLV, took the son with her, he signed all the paperwork, etc. My brother was totally devastated. A few months later, he started dating this other girl from high school. We were surprised he found someone so fast, but whatever. But she was super annoying, like that girl Ross dated on Friends, with that annoying laugh, but also kind of mean, sorta cold towards my brother, and not fun-loving, just kinda blah, but not a bad person. Anyway, none of us cared for her, but we just figured she was just a rebound. My brother never smiled around her, never seemed at ease. He lost his easygoing nature. Anyway, a year or so later, he finds out his ex with the kid got married to someone else from their same high school, mind you. Again, he is crushed. So what does he do? He proposes to the annoying girl. When we found out, we were totally shocked. WTF is he thinking? It's too soon, she's not cool, you still love your ex. But he's an adult, so whatever. I remember the day before the wedding, his friends came over to his house and got him totally drunk. I mean, really bad. I stayed sober to take care of him. The next day, he was so hungover. It was awful, lots of vomit. I had to shave him and dress him in his tux. When the limo picked him and me and the rest of the groomsmen up, he requested to go straight to the liquor store. Again, he got drunk, just a couple hours before the wedding FFS. I couldn't stop him. At the wedding, the bride knew he was drunk. She was pissed. All of us had been wanting to tell him not to marry her, but didn't say a word. The whole time during the ceremony and reception, he didn't smile, he didn't laugh. He was just really tense, or bored looking. His mind was elsewhere. His face was screaming, "This is a mistake." The bride was moody. I think everyone sensed it wouldn't last. It's not like the other stories I've read here on this thread, where the groom made out with a bridesmaid, or something crazy like that. You can just tell by the body language. Years later, I found out that a cousin, who is a strong, smart woman, called my brother a couple days before the wedding and told him not to get married, because they are not in love, and it's a big mistake. She was the only one who tried to stop them. A year or so after their marriage, my mum said, "He's not happy, but just watch, he'll end up with his ex again." They were married for 12 years, had 3 awesome kids. But my brother was unhappy the whole time. You can sense it. He never laughed, joked, smiled. He just seemed irritable the whole time, moody. It was awful seeing him like that. His wife was pretty intolerable, not a bad person and a great mom, but just annoying and bitchy. A killjoy. Would be hanging out playing video games and she'd come in and tell him to stop playing and clean or something, etc. So I stopped visiting my bro. It sucked. He was just miserable for those 12 years. Even their 3 kids sensed that he was not a happy person. It was a sad situation. He also started drinking very heavily. I think he did it to escape his misery. Not a good time for my bro. Finally, after 12 years of being depressed, he just said that's it. He didn't want to be miserable for the rest of his life. He filed for divorce. He started renting this cool house, and since I was in need of a roommate, I moved in. Those were some fun times. We'd get the kids every other week, and it was so much fun. I'd help with homework, drop them off at karate, etc. Then when the kids were back with mom the other week, we lived the bachelor life. Beers, video games, sports, chicks. My brother was happy again, smiling, cracking jokes, being a smartass. He was back. It was such a great year of my life. Then, he found the ex on Facebook. They hadn't talked in years and he was estranged from their son. He starts chatting her up. She had divorced as well, a year or so earlier. They were chatting all the time, even made me chat with her. Finally, after months of chatting, he goes to Vegas to see her and see his son he hadn't seen in almost 16 years. I tried texting him while he was there to ask how it was going. No response. 3 days later, he comes back and tells me they are together. 2 weeks after that, she comes from Vegas with my long-lost nephew. My family is more than thrilled to see him again after so many years, especially my mom, grandma. My brother then asks me to go ring shopping with him. He proposes on the last of the 3 days she's visiting from Vegas. A few months later, they are married in a small wedding in Vegas with